And welcome back into a brand new episode of Tribal Council Chat. As always, we are your hosts. My name is Bruce Heller,
And my name's Britt Parnell.
and let's get into it. So, we have a kind of a fun, different episode this week. This is something I don't know about Brett, but something I've seen other podcasts do, and they call it a mailbag episode, where they kind of just have people send them questions or opinions or comments, then go through those. We're a Survivor show, so we're going to call it a tree mail episode instead. I did not run that by Brett. I just said that. I assume.
I loved it.
So, and if you've probably noticed on our Instagram, on our other socials, we've been asking you guys for questions, unpopular opinions, hot takes, all sorts of stuff. We've got all those results, and let's talk about them.
Yeah. That should be great. First of all, credit to the tree mail thing. I absolutely love that, even though I didn't know it was coming, so that was really fun. Um, do you want to start off, Bruce, with anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go. I have our Instagram pulled up, and I think we got one hot take on Facebook. I'll have you read that at the end of these Instagram ones.
Good.
The first
And if I
one.
see anything that's missing, I'll from Instagram, I'll jump in because I screenshotted quite a bit of it.
The first one we got under hot takes. Ben is a good winner. Eh.
For me, I mean, I'm gonna anytime I get this question of quote good winner, bad winner, deserve to win, didn't deserve to win, you know where I'm gonna go with this. And that's Rob Mariano. If you win the end.
Yeah.
Ben
Look,
did what he had to do in his game to get to the end and get the jury votes to win. So therefore, yes, I agree with the person who said this. Ben is a good winner. Ben deserved his game just like any of the other 40 deserved his game. Do I think how many times he played an idol maybe takes him out of, say, contention for me to think of the top 10, 15 players of all time? Absolutely, it does. Because I feel there was a lot of things in Ben's game that was lacking, but you don't have to play a perfect game to win Survivor. You have to play better than all the other people on your season. And he did that.
real quick. There's something right under the chair I'm sitting in. It's got a note attached to it. Oh, this is an idol. Just right under my chair I'm sitting in. How cool is that? That's convenient. No, I had to pull that bit. Ben famously found an idol right under where he was sleeping. A lot of people like to try to knock him and say, "Oh, production planted that there specifically for him." No, I don't think so. It's incredibly convenient, hence the little fake bit there, but it is not rigged. I will never say a winner doesn't deserve to win. If you get the votes, you deserved it. That's the main goal. There are this is not one of them, but there are seasons where like I feel like another person played better than the winner, or I would have voted for the other person. Like we've discussed on this show with Guatemala, I would have voted for Stephanie, for example, or Heroes versus Villains. I probably would have voted for Parvati, but that's not a knock on Sandra. That's not a knock on Danny. It's just me personally, my vote would have gone a different way. But they knew the jury that was there, and Ben knew who his jury was and how to convince him to vote for him. So
That's an interesting question that you bring up. Because this is one of the really few seasons that I don't really know where my jury vote would have went.
I don't know either.
I almost feel like I would have had to be there. I mean, I was cheering for Mike the whole way through, and he went home just before the final four. So
Mike and Joe, the Coconut Alliance, was great. Very funny. And I will say, Ben, would I say Ben is a top tier winner? No, but would I say he played the weakest game of any winner? He didn't get voted out, so I'm also going to say no. So I would say he's kind of a middle tier winner.
I can see that.
Do you want to read the next one off of Instagram from Hot Takes? Because you have all of these on your screenshots.
I thought I did, but I is that the most recent one that you read, and now I have two more. Is that correct? I want to make sure I have the right ones
No, I read
because
like
I have two.
that was like the first one we got sent. That one was at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Instagram.
I can read the two I have, and I'll get you to read the rest.
Okay.
So you know what? That was too old. You go ahead with what was under hot takes. I have unpopular opinions and any questions screenshotted.
Okay. So rolling into the next hot take. Chris Underwood shouldn't be hated on for his win. Very similar to the Ben thing. Underwood did what he had to do. He played the hand he was dealt very well. I'm not going to knock him. And like I said, I'm never going to say a winner didn't deserve to win. But at the same time, if we're ranking winning games, I'm definitely going to have him in the last spot for the sole purpose of he's the only one that got voted out. Like, that's got to count for something. Like, that's not hating on him. That's just ranking people.
I'm going to agree with you there. Like you say, that he played the hand he was dealt. I can't discredit Chris as a winner for what he did to get to the end. Where I feel that it is fair to criticize is production allowing Chris to get to the end by essentially doing nothing the entire game because he wasn't even in the game.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a fan of Edge of Extinction at all. I don't think I personally would have held, if I was sitting on that jury, I would have probably held it against Chris that he got voted out because I do feel the fact that he got voted out is part of his game. And therefore, I would have cast my vote in the direction of Gavin. And a lot of people, now I'm about to go into some unpopular opinion. You know what? I'm going to save something in this topic for unpopular opinions because I remember saying it in the middle of the finale and my family was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So I'm just going to save that for when we get to our own questions a bit later. But
the crazy thing is, I can't say for sure that I wouldn't have voted for Chris because I don't know what I would have been like if I was there on the jury and witnessed him make this shocking move of giving up final immunity to put himself into fire. That hadn't been done before. So I probably
yeah,
would have, but I can't.
before. I know for me personally, I've long said, and maybe this goes more back to the Ben discussion we just had as opposed to a Chris discussion, but it ties into both of them. I've long said forced fire making is kind of whatever, and I don't factor it into my decision if I'm ever on that jury.
Yeah, I don't hate fire the way force fire the way most people do, to be honest. And maybe this will be an unpopular opinion of me, and that's because I've heard tropes. Unpopular opinion and hot take feel very similar, but
And B, I guess the way I was thinking about it when I posted both is hot takes could be something that's not necessarily controversial, but that people have discussions over.
yeah, my thing is,
So, like, a hot take could be Rudy and Sandra or Michelle and Aubrey. These are things people debate, but there's no real right or wrong answer.
no, the right answer would have been Aubrey winning. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just wanted to see his reaction, guys. Oh, but no, back to what I was saying. I would prefer a vote at 4, but I don't hate forced fire the way most people do for this reason. That's because I've heard Probst explain it, where the thought behind it was take like Jesse from 43, for example, or Ricard in 41, of these people that have played great games, and if because of that have become a target, where if they don't win immunity at 4, they're automatically gone. Fire, in a way, gives those people kind of a better shot at staying and making it to the end than just a vote where you're automatically going home if you don't have the necklace. It's still flawed. I wish if you're gonna have that at 4, have Idol stop at 6 instead of 5. But I get the thought behind it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, Jesse lost Fire anyway, but oh well. This next one, I don't know if the person is talking about the twists or the seasons. So I'll say let's cover both aspects, and then I'll text him afterwards because I'm curious what he meant. Redemption Island sucks. Ghost Island also sucks. Do we want to cover these as twists first or seasons first?
Let's start as twists and then go into the seasons.
Okay. I disagree.
So in terms of, I guess this is kind of a gray area because the person who sent it in didn't really give any detail as to why they think this. They just have an opinion and they're entitled to it. Maybe this is me getting into my own unpopular opinion that could be later. I don't think Redemption Island is such a bad season. It's actually mid-tier in my season ranking.
I would have it like lower middle tier probably. Like it's not near the top by any
means. The vast majority of the community has it in their bottom 5, and I'm like, I can't figure that out unless you're someone who just doesn't like Boston Rob, and therefore, I mean, it was the Boston Rob show.
I mean, there are plenty of people that don't like Rob, to be fair.
Yeah, there's certainly Rob is my favorite living male castaway. So
I'm trying to find the rankings I did last. Okay, my bottom 5, starting from like very last going forward, are. And this was when there was only 42 seasons that I did this. I did this in December of 22. Thailand, Fiji, Island of the Idols, Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, and Nicaragua. Redemption Island is way better to me than all of those.
No question. This is why we do so good as a team in this podcast, because you and I pretty much have the same bottom 5 seasons that don't come up very much.
Let me see, where's Redemption Island on here? It is. I'm not seeing it. I'm blind, apparently. Oh. I had it as like 27, 28 out of 42 at the time.
That makes sense.
Ghost Island.
So, yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to go into Ghost Island, so it's all yours.
Ghost Island, on the other hand, I have a bit of a soft spot for because it's the first season I ever watched live when my mom got me into the show. I have it at 35 out of 42 when I did this. Dom and Wendell are great. I think there was potential with Libby, but she went kind of early. The season, like the theme itself is cool, and we'll get into this when we talk about these as twists of like past mistakes coming back and like haunting them, or they brought a replica of Eric's necklace back and all these things. It just, the season itself was kind of a steamroll after a certain point. Like there was some good casting points, but there was also just kind of, I mean, it was kind of a mediocre cast overall, but I wouldn't say this season sucks by any means. It's entertaining. They should have brought the car back for this season, by the way. I will die saying that.
I agree. I'm not going to say at all that it wasn't good. This is an interesting season in that I guess I would say that the gameplay wasn't great because you had this whole issue with Ghost Island and nobody really knew what was going on. At the same time, even beyond Dom and Wendell, I think casting really did a good job this season. Obviously, Dom and Wendell are two big names that were allies effectively pre-game, even though they weren't allowed to speak, and carried it through the whole show. But when I think of that cast, it's like you say, Libby was a good casting choice. Kellen was an amazing casting choice.
Yeah.
Loyal was great at the end of the game.
Chelsea.
Even some of the pre-merge players having like Steph Johnson's probably a pre-merge player that I think was really deserves another chance.
I guess you're right. I really didn't give the cast
Steph
enough credit.
Gonzalez, there's a player that went home way too early and probably would have been one of the better first boots if she got a chance to play.
I think you're right. You've convinced me, honestly. I didn't give this cast enough credit. I would also throw the name Chelsea out there amongst those that had potential, and I could have seen her going a lot deeper. I think she had the smarts for it.
See that too.
So let me go back
What about
to
the twist?
Oh yeah, as twist. Redemption Island as a twist is my favorite of the redemption twists, I'll say, which are Redemption Island, Outcast, Edge of Extinction. And we did an episode on these twists, and I said it then, and I'll phrase it this way this time. I like that Redemption Island has a duel every episode. You have to keep re-earning your spot. It's not like Edge of Extinction or Outcast where you get voted out and then you automatically have a spot in the battle back challenge. Only 2 people will have a chance to battle back with Redemption Island. You have to repeatedly earn your spot, and I like that.
And the further you make it in the game, the less you have to do on redemption to get that spot.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I found interesting that I'm just thinking to myself, but I thought about it as you were talking. I see why Redemption Island doesn't exist anymore because it was just really time consuming and not great for TV. But when they last did it, which I believe was Blood versus Water?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had 60-minute episodes. Do you think Redemption Island could maybe be better nowadays, seeing we could still get a full 60-minute episode, maybe a 70-minute episode, and do Redemption Island?
And I will say this also is both of us feel like I don't hate it as much as you do, but the Edge of Extinction is kind of a broken twist in a way. It makes good TV. Like we talked about, we like Redemption Island as a twist, but it like wasn't always the best TV. Edge of is almost kind of the opposite. Like the twist itself needs to be tweaked in a couple ways. Mostly just if you stop it at the merge, it's automatically fixed. But it's good TV. Like Winners at War
It is.
and on the Edge of Extinction season, we get great content from that island.
Yes, we do.
And guessing that a lot of the Winners at War contestants have families and kids, I'm guessing a lot of them wouldn't have been there if there wasn't some sort of battle back twist.
I would imagine.
So, I hate that they put it on that season, but they kind of had to get the cast they got, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no question.
Ghost Island is a twist I really don't have much to say about. There really wasn't that much to it.
It's nothing that they haven't done on other seasons. It was kind of neat though to like as a Survivor fan just to get to see some of these relics of the game be played again and whether players could use them correctly. But was it a twist that benefited the season or took away from the season? It was interesting, but could they have came up with a better theme? Probably.
It's also just Exile Island with
Yeah,
things from past
exactly.
seasons on it instead of new things. There's a game and you get a reward if you win. That's just Exile Island.
That's it. I mean, I almost think with the cast with this cast, but with like there being a lot of people that are just good at strategy games on there. Wendell, Dom, Kellen, like I was saying, Chris. This could almost be a season that maybe would have almost even worked well in the new era.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to see it. Our next one, and you and I are both going to have thoughts on this one. I can already tell. Quote, Millennials versus Gen X is the best all newbie season in Survivors. They put an S on the end of Survivor, so you know who you
Millennials
are. You
versus Gen
misspelled the name
X
of the show.
is the best all newbie season in Survivor.
Not even close.
Yeah, not even close for me. I mean,
China, Pearl Islands, Australian Outback produced 8 returnees. That record's never getting touched. Um, there's 3 better than it off the top of my head. I'm I'm thinking.
I don't even think it's the best all newbie season in the 30s when we have Kolong and David versus Goliath standing right around it.
My problem with millennials versus Gen X is it just feels very game body to me at times. Like there are some personality moments, like Adam and Jay just kind of bonding over their parents and sickness, that are really cool. And you have, as you referred to him, what's that idiot's name? Taylor,
I'm
accusing
not going to
Adam
be
of
able to
stealing
live that
food
random
somehow.
line down.
What?
I'm not going to be able to live that random line down.
Okay, but it's hilarious. I say that lovingly. Like I'm not knocking you for that. You know that. But
Oh, yes.
we have Taylor accusing
It was
Adam
funny
somehow
because
of.
I sat when I watched this season for the first time. I was like, a guide to how to not play Survivor should just be how Taylor played Survivor.
Yeah, it pinnacled by somehow accusing Adam of stealing food that Taylor himself was the one who stole,
Yeah.
making a very obvious showmance. So like there were some personality driven moments on this season. Overall, it feels very game body. It's an incredible cast. I feel like Hannah did, like Adam rightfully won. I feel like Hannah at least deserved a vote though. But it's a good season, but when I look at seasons like China, Australian Outback, Pearl Islands, it's not on that level at all for me.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I don't even think it's really on the same level as a couple of the seasons in the 30s that are around it.
I would say the 2 best all newbie casts from the 30s are 38 and 37.
Yeah, as far as a casting perspective, I
32
think
and
I put the
33 are kind of even for me. Like
so
you're big on the 32 cast because it has Michelle, but just overall as a cast, I think 33 is just as good. But 38 and 37 are the top 2 for me, for sure.
cast wise, 38 was in there too. I think what happens in the season takes away from it a bit on for me, but it's definitely one of the top 10 casts of all time.
The thing with that final 3 is if Gavin had won, yes, we wouldn't have a winner that got voted out. But with that, and I mean, I rewatched the season either late first semester this past year or over winter break, one of the two. So it's been 5 or 6 months since I watched it. I really can't remember anything Gavin like really did that stood out to me game wise or was super like wow he's gonna win moment. I feel like he kind of wouldn't have been the most satisfying winner either. Like, none of those final 3 really I feel like would have been the most satisfying winner possible.
Agree.
Whereas like if Victoria
Like
Furby
if you want to get a satisfying winner in Edge of Extinction, you need either a Lauren O'Connell win or a Victoria Bamonde win.
Or War Dog would have been entertaining. Like, there's no way that was happening, but I just wasn't impressed. But I get it. Chris got voted out. You shouldn't win if you got voted out. Gavin and Julie really weren't that impressive either. So Chris made the flashy move right at the end and risked giving up his immunity, and that was the last thing the jurors remembered. So, like, props to him for that, for taking advantage of it, but none of those final three would have been great to me.
Good.
I do love Gavin though. Like, he's a fun guy. He's a fun follow online. I just don't remember his game very well. And usually with a winner,
Same.
you remember their resume pretty decently. Okay, so do you want to move into some of the stuff you have?
Sure. It would, before I just do that, it would be neat to know what kind of Gavin footage might be just stuck in the vault over in Television City in Hollywood somewhere because he doesn't win the game.
Yeah.
So moving on, we have a unpopular opinion from someone. I think this is interesting. Note that they don't say a season or a cast or gameplay, and therefore I kind of agree with them. They say South Pacific is top tier television.
I did see this one. It's I like it. Most people, it's kind of the Redemption Island thing. I like it. Most people don't. It's kind of bizarre. What I love about it is Sophie's winning game, because with New School Survivor, and this is a new school season because it's after 20, a lot of the times people feel like they need like this defining move or this big resume move to win, and you have Sophie win, and her big move is not making a move. Her big thing that she did was keeping her alliance together when they were constantly getting antsy or wanting to turn on each other or wanting to make that resume move, because she knew that alliance sticking together was best for her.
Thing is, somehow being able to survive on a deserted island with a guy who calls himself coach for 39 days.
Oh gosh. I don't know what to do with him. He's great television, he's entertaining, but he's also really annoying. I get most annoyed with him on Tocantins. Heroes versus villains in South Pacific aren't quite as bad for me, but like, watching him on TV is an experience. Living with him on that island must just be a whole nother level of an experience, honestly.
That's true. I'm like this unpopular opinion. I looking at the angle where this person says top tier TV, I'm like, you know what? It really is, because I almost kind of see South Pacific as like a B tier Gabon, where none of these players, other than Sophie, were all that great, but they all did things that were entertaining, be it Brandon giving up immunity, or be it this whole religious cult that existed on Apollo, led by Coach, that Sophie was part of, but knew that she wasn't interested in following at all, or be it Cochrane flipping and just enraging Jim and Whitney, or Ozzy walking out of the game to go to Redemption Island because only Ozzy, the challenge beast of all time, we're going to get to that in my unpopular opinions, is the one that can beat Christine, a lady in her 50s from Redemption Island, who's a huge threat to their game, even though she's furious with Coach, and if they let her win, she probably votes with Savai after the merge. It's just good.
It's wild. It is. And you've got.
I'm curious to know though, what do you think about that? Do you think it's a huge mistake from Ozzy because he basically took out a vote that could have been for him if Christine gets back in the game?
I'm
He
not
was
sure.
furious at
He put
Benjamin, as she called him.
It might be. I don't think it's 100. Well, we have no way of knowing if she would have voted with Savai'i or not for sure, though. Like, taking out one of the other tribes' numbers feels like a solid plan with the information they had. So, yeah, I don't know.
Almost get the sense that with the information that did come out in the duels, it was just Ozzy once again thinking that he's the greatest survival player of all time because he's good in challenges and therefore trying to like do the honorable thing and have his alliance go to the end instead of playing the game because like we've talked about Rupert before, Ozzy doesn't really play the game.
Rupert was strategic. He put some rocks in his pocket that one time.
It's coming.
What's the only strategic thing he did across 4 seasons? And it kind of worked. So, the thing Rupert is great at is standing on stage at reunion shows or at America's Tribal Council and just like roar, or that thing that he does. That's what he's best at, to be honest. He's a
Oh my
likable
god,
guy. I enjoy season other than Heroes versus Villains because he's kind of what's the he's kind of holier than thou at times on Heroes versus Villains. I like having Rupert on my screen. It's just he doesn't do a ton strategically.
ready to go to the next unpopular opinion?
Yes.
We have Tui is not the best player to never win.
Yeah. I get shade on Survivor Fanjoy whenever I say this, but it's true.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know we might disagree on who the best player to not win is. I think the person that you would put as the number one best player to not win, I put as the number two best player to not win,
Yeah, Amanda.
which is Amanda.
And
But I would personally say that Sesternino is the best player to never win. But I mean, at the same time, no shade to Sui. She played an amazing
oh,
game. I think she's a very good player. I don't agree with the fans that she keeps getting robbed because I think that it is ultimate fire making in a tie 2-2 vote in Panama is the way the game is. That's not a player getting robbed any more than Danielle would get robbed if Suli won fire making.
which nobody
Uh,
would be complaining about, by the way.
Pardon?
Which nobody would complain about, by the way, certainly this many years later.
Exactly. As I've said before, Micronesia, yes, there was a change to the format, but the way I always say is Final Two is not a twist. Final Four would be a twist. Final Two is the original way that Survivor Final Tribal Council works, and I still am adamant, even though it hasn't happened since Cagayan, that if you go out onto the island today and play Survivor, you have to expect that Final Two is a possibility.
Yeah. And also, Heroes versus Villains, she just got idled out. That's not a big deal. Game Changers was
And
awful. I will get. Here's the thing. I have no beef with Suri herself. She's delightful. I enjoy watching her machine. She's a great player. I think her fan base just like the Suri fan base that just gets carried away.
and thinks that everything is unfair to her game, whereas the same things has happened to many of our other favorite players too, and no one really cares.
No, this is no knock against her, by the way. This is more against the people that act like she's a perfect Survivor player and does no wrong. Here's my argument, though, and I've got into this a little bit in comment sections, but I'm a co-host of this show, so I have the platform to share this now. But Amanda holds the record for longest number of days without being voted out.
No.
That that Suri doesn't have. So strategically, maybe Suri is a little bit better, but it's close. Socially, I'm biased because she's my favorite player of all time. I would give Amanda the edge because, and the tiebreaker is they were on a season together, and she built a relationship with Parvati to where if either one of the two of them won final immunity, they were going to the end together. Cirie had that opportunity and didn't build that same relationship. Cirie's incredible socially, don't get me wrong, but
I think if Cirie does get to the end, she does win that game. It's
yeah,
just that wasn't the season she was playing on, unfortunately for her.
no, she went to final three with a duo and didn't realize that she was the third wheel, I don't think.
If you
And
go to
and to
final
be
three with a duo, you have to be ready to win a challenge.
and to be fair to her, this was supposed to be a final three season. So, and I think Jeff had even used the phrase final three earlier on, which would have happened had there not been the medevacs. But like you said, you have to be prepared for anything. But and look at the final third of the game, the physical game. Amanda's a lot better, and it's not necessarily close when it comes to challenges or like physical stuff around camp and stuff. And the argument I always get on this is, well, Amanda can't win because she's made it to the end and she self-destructs at Final Tribal, which is true. But in 4 times playing,
Well, it can be practiced.
I think even if Amanda it's the fatal flaw to her, in my opinion, kind of the only thing wrong with her game is Final Tribal. But Cirie has kind of proven she's not capable of getting to the end. Something always happens. So is it better to lose at the end? I think these people's argument is, to put it in sports terms, it's better to just lose in the conference finals and not even make the Super Bowl than to lose in the Super Bowl. So that argument just doesn't make sense to me. I could be wrong. I could be missing stuff. But now let's get to you on best player to never win. Who would you say it is?
Sister Nino, Amazon and All Stars.
I love
Rob is.
I love him. All Stars hurts him a little bit to me because he goes home so early, but he's a fantastic player.
Rob is a fantastic player, like you say. I think he's really. We saw a few players come and go right before him, right after him, but I think he's really the character that changes this game from get in an alliance on day one and stick to the end to taking Survivor on a vote by vote basis and shifting strategies and making new alliances. And I really think if Hatch was the first player to invent the way the game would be played, Sesternino perfected the way the game would be played.
Yeah. If I'm doing
I think he's another one that I sit there and just go, if it isn't for Robin Amazon, are you and I still talking about Survivor in 2024?
I don't know. We'll never know. I feel like for me, if I'm ranking the best players to never win in order and doing a top 4, I would put Amanda 1, Cirie 2, and then Sesternino and Hance are 3 and 4. I like Sesternino better. Hance kind of has gone deeper into the game. So I don't know how to like. Those are 3 and 4, however you want to order those two, but that's my 4.
If I was to do it, I would go with Sesternino 1, Amanda 2, Cirie 3, and that's where it really opens up. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna put Jessie 4.
That's a good one. I also want to point out that, and you've seen this before, I'm the one that gets into these best to never win discussions with the Cirie army in comment sections and posts, as you've seen. And admittedly, I have written a few posts on there, kind of meant to egg them on a little bit when I feel like discussing. But I place Cirie higher on this list than you do. So if the army is listening, don't come for me on this one. You're going to, because I did the big argument spiel, but I have her at 2, just so you guys know.
Which is fine. Before we get into general questions and wrap up, do you have any unpopular opinions do you want to put in this segment? Do you want me to give a couple of mine?
Full disclosure, the Instagram unpopular opinion that said Suri isn't the best player to never win was sent in by me. I don't know if you noticed that or not. So that's kind
Did
of my
not.
big one that I always share when this question comes up. Partially because I'm a huge Amanda fan, and partly just because I enjoy discussing, and that usually gets people riled up. But that's not great. But I'm trying to think if I have any others.
You want me to give a couple while you think about it?
Yeah, you go.
I was just talking about Ozzy's view on the physical game. So here's my first of two for this section. Best physical game of all time is Mike Holloway, the guy who actually won the game. Not Ozzy, not Joe, not Malcolm, not Jonathan.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't put Malcolm in the same category as a lot of people do, as like the Joes and Ozzies and Mike Holloways or Colby in season 2. I don't think Malcolm had enough success in individual challenges to be on the same level as those others. I love Malcolm though. Hi Malcolm, if you're listening. I would agree with you though. The guy that actually won has to have that title.
Okay, good. We're on track in that one. Second one, please don't eat me up in the comments. This has nothing to do with anything outside the game. I'm just talking about inside the game here.
Oh boy.
Best player to best survival player of all time to be voted out before the merge. I'm gonna go with Anna Kate on this.
Okay, you said don't eat you up in the comments. I thought this was going to be a Sydney Seagal take for some reason.
Oh,
Because that's normally when the comments eat you up. Not just our content, but fan jury content mostly. With the For those of you that don't know, the original version of this show was just me and Brett doing countdowns together on Facebook before it grew into what it's become. And like the Sydney stuff you used to always get eaten up on. So that's where I thought this was going. I
the reason I'm gonna first of all, let me make a Sydney comment. Sydney made the merge, so that she doesn't qualify in this section anyway.
True. I just thought that's where it was going when you said comments don't eat me up for this. This is only in game. But no, I like Anna. Anna was a solid player, smart, fun to watch, pretty. So I enjoyed having her on my screen. But
The
oh,
reason I go with this, and I know there's a lot of people who make some good arguments for maybe Brian in Guatemala here. The reason I pick Anna in this spot, as controversial as she is within the community, is the fact, do you think Anna was playing a game that was a contender to win up until the point where she goes to Gondol, Michelle goes to Chandlo, and Julia goes to Exile Island, and then she's screwed? But before
yeah.
that, I think she was really playing a game that could have put herself in a dominant spot going into the merge if she makes the merge. I don't know how it would have went within that trio, because I mean, as we see, coming to Scott's question, Michelle's plays such a good end game, and that probably still comes to the forefront. Whereas Michelle would probably supersede Anna at the end of the game, despite hiding some of her skills, like her ability to do puzzles, until she was doing them individually. If you watch the pre-merge in before the tribe swap, when they were the Gondol tribe, Beauty, it was Julia and Anna doing puzzles despite Michelle on their tribe, which is fascinating strategy, I think, to see from Michelle's point of view, that she was hiding that skill set of hers until it was individual and it was too late. But I think that three maybe put. I think if Anna makes the merge, let's say all three of them make the merge, Anna, Michelle, and Julia. I think that's where you maybe see that the three of them stick with Ty, partner with Scott and Jason, and go to the final six together. We see an Aubrey voted out as the merge boot of the season rather than going all the way to final two.
Survivor, what if? Neil not getting medevac. We'll never know. People try to hypotheticalize it, but could have had any result. There's a few what ifs from that season.
People say, oh, it would have been a different winner if Joe didn't get medevac. We don't know that. Joe got medevac before the immunity. Michelle could have won immunity. Sydney could have won immunity. Ty could have won immunity. There's no guarantee that Aubrey was going to win immunity in that spot and work with Joe.
No, I think Neil not getting medevac is the bigger what if. Could that have helped Aubrey win more than Joe is? And then Caleb gets medevac and for some reason gets brought back, even though he really didn't do that much on Kaoh Rong. But
too much, but he literally almost died for this game.
Yeah. He also is one away from competing the CBS trifecta that's never been done.
So that is my two that I thought of for this spot. Anything you want to add before we go into general questions that we got from the viewers?
Yeah, I shared my big one, which is Amanda's the best player to never win. And I don't have this ranked out in my head. So I'm kind of coming up with a number on the spot. I'll say top 5. I'll say D played a top 5 winning game.
Yeah, it's a very unpopular opinion, at least in terms of my list.
I'd
top
have to
maybe
sit there
15.
and map it out, but I'm not ruling it out yet.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I can see the point. I would say maybe I'm looking at the number 15 is sticking out in my head. I don't think that my top 5 winning games will really ever be moved between the 4 players we're talking about in our Mount Rushmore series, along with Rich. But who knows?
Yeah,
If we look at just for the audience's take, because I know we had some disagreement on who we did our Mount Rushmore series on. If I'm gonna say, for example, pick the next 4 and do like Mount Rushmore tier 2, at that point I'm picking Richard Hatch, Michelle Fitzgerald, Sarah Lacina, and it's a toss-up between Todd or Yule.
Yeah, Todd's a good one. Todd would be up there for me. And I'm not looking at players as a whole, by the way. I just mean like the individual winning game. And the thing for me with D is she was just so dominant. Like from very early on, she was in control. And I've been through this spiel already. I'll try to shorten it. Basically, though, anytime we as an audience saw someone say her name of maybe they need to go, that person went home that episode. We had her allies that 2 of them knew they were both her number ones, and neither one of them even thought of going after the other one, which would have been in both of their best interests. To get, like, D had of the rest, like, her alliance playing her game for her. Like, there have been some great players and great winning games, but very few people have been to the level of dominant that she was. And just kind of running the game from so early on all the way until the end.
So we have a few more questions. That this was more in the general question. This is a really good question from Kevin, who has been on this podcast a few times. And
Most
he
of them have
says,
been from him, by the way, so shout out to him. I was sending him these as we were posting them.
And he says, who's your most underrated player and underrated winner of all time?
Winner Chris Daugherty.
Chris Daugherty? And underrated player, so I guess a not winner.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that, but while I'm thinking, I'll talk. I'll try to do two things at once. We'll see if it works. Chris Darby, though, was at a point where he was the only man left in the game with what, 6 women? And all they had to do was vote him out. And he found a crack that at that final 7 round to where they thought, oh, we can spare him one more round. We have a large advantage over him. We can always take him out later. This woman over here is a bigger threat, and kind of played them against each other. So then the advantage against him is only 5-1, which still sounds daunting. Next thing you know, he's in the final 2 and he wins.
That's a great pick.
It doesn't get talked about. His winning game is insane. His comeback.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. We just talked about Amazon a bit. Underrated winner, I'm going to go with Jenna.
That's a good one.
I think she won 4 immunities, which is tied for a female. She correctly played final where she won final immunity and knew, even though he was a liar the whole game, I have to vote off Cesternino. He's going to give a good speech, kind of moving away from the spot that Survivor was in at the time, where it was like Jenna was very forward thinking to be able to see that Rob played a better game than Matt, which a lot of the audience didn't necessarily agree with at the time that it was live. It was like, oh, Matthew's the guy you got to get rid of. I remember watching that season live, and no, he wasn't.
But
and
with the
also, kind of like we just talked about Chris, she goes in from the moment that Heidi is voted out. Jenna is pretty much alone and still manages to get herself to the end and wins all the votes, even getting votes from people like Christy, who was her arch rival on the season.
Yeah, and so that's a great pick. Also, shout out to Matt and his machete during that one scene at the shelter where he's just sharpening it for so long that they're questioning if he's a serial killer, or Cesternino in a confessional is questioning if he's a killer or not. That's a great scene.
And then underrated player. I mean, I gave an example from Amazon after just talking about Amazon. I think I'm going to go back to another season we also just talked about, and that's Korong, and bring up Julia here.
Yeah.
And when Julia played this game, she was a first-year student at Boston University, just out of high school, and was able to get herself in an alliance, build a sub-alliance duo within that alliance with Michelle, and break from the mold and play with Scott and Jason when she knew it was in her advantage in order to win the game, and break away from the bigger alliance of Aubrey, Ty, Sydney, knowing that she couldn't beat them, but knowing if I can sit next to these guys in the end, I will win. Something that I would not expect an 18-year-old to be able to do. I remember like that reward challenge right after the scene where the axe and the machete go missing, and only seconds later we go to the word and the tribe's fighting, and Jeff says, because he knows it's great television, I'm going to let you guys make your own teams if you want. And Julia goes, I'll play with the 2 guys that you all hate.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
It is, but it also kind of made her a target to the other group in a way, because they're like, okay, she's not really with us. We need to be concerned about her.
But I think she was already a target at that point to them. None of them wanted to sit next to her. None of them wanted to go far in the game with her. And she knew that. And in contrast, if Ty plays the idol for Scott in that super idol situation, then I think maybe Michelle doesn't vote her out. And the 5 of them go deep in the game, and it kind of is another way. Michelle plays that game so perfectly that she was teetering right in the middle of the seesaw, and could at that vote could go with whichever way got ended up winning out on that one vote where Scott goes home, and that's what causes Michelle to do the right thing, vote out her number one ally, and win the game.
Yeah,
But Julia was very close to getting all the way to the end of that game, which is normally when we look at it, these younger people coming in Survivor, uh, Michael Yeager, or I forget the guy in Token Teens, but these 18, 19-year-old players, they're usually just, I'm just here for the experience and I'm young and this is going to be a fun few weeks and whatever it is happens. Julia was ready to win this game.
yeah. For my underrated players, I'll go with two from the same season, and I can't decide between them. One was a really great underrated strategist, and the other was great and underrated at building social bonds and relationships. And that is the social player is Lauren O'Connell, and the strategic is Victoria Bamond.
Yeah, good picks. I was thinking of those two names as well.
Lauren being such a close ally with Kelly, my favorite one-time player ever. But Victoria, if the twist of Edge either doesn't exist or stops at merge, I think if it stops at the merge returnee, I think there's a good shot Devins wins, but she has a good shot also.
I think she has the best shot. I think if the edge stops there, at some point Devins would just be targeted simply for being the edge person. Maybe after they get rid of Julie, who's the one that's really pushing the, oh, it's so unfair to get rid of Devins right away. Lauren wanted to send him back to the edge instantly.
Which Rob did in 22, and everyone thought he was so heartless for it.
Would
But
do that.
Lauren, who everyone on the cast loves and has built great bonds, suggested the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, my phone just died, so before I forget this question, I'll throw an unpopular opinion out there that we got this morning. Then we can go back to what you have.
It's just one more question on my list and then we're done.
All right, what this one said was, and our audience already knows my answer to this, and I've probably been annoying talking about my answer to this question. But this one from 7 or 8 hours ago, I believe, said Gabler is the best new era winner. For unpopular opinions.
That's certainly an unpopular opinion. I respect Gabler's win, although Cassidy certainly would have got my vote. I'm sure I know exactly, like you said, where you're going, and that's D. I mean, I can't deny that position either, as much as we talk about her on this show.
Yeah,
Even after, even let's take D out of it because the audience knows our position on her as being a top winner there. I would put Jam Jam right after her, not
yeah.
Gabler.
I'm not gonna. Gabler gets enough hate from Survivor Twitter that I'm not gonna throw any shade at him. I also feel like our audience might get annoyed after a while hearing me talk about how much I love D often enough. So I'm just gonna leave my answer there. You guys know my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
No shade at Gabler. He gets enough of that for no reason anyway.
I say Jam Jam is right after D. I don't know why this didn't cross my mind, but there's a good case to be made to say Kenzie is right after D2.
Yeah, for sure. And if we're counting new era players, there's one that didn't win with Jesse that I would put above Gabler also.
Yeah.
So
all right. So this is a fun question to wrap up on. I really like this question for the person who sent it in. Which season would you most want to be a castaway on?
yeah, so I actually wasn't looking at these, and one of the ones I had written down just to ask you was what season you would want to be on and whose place would you take. So someone kind of asked that in a different way. But for me, it would have to be China. And I'll take it a step further. The place I'm taking is Aaron's. and I like Aaron, but here's my thought process. I definitely was going to join Fei Long, one of my favorite tribes ever, in my top 2. Get to play with Amanda, get to play with Todd, get to play with Courtney. I would try to get close to those 3. And my initial thought was take Jean Robert's place, but nobody on Fei Long liked him. And if I take Aaron's place, he's still there. And he's as long as he's around, I'm not the big target that everyone hates. So I'll take Aaron's place on the Fei Long tribe and join China as the season because that cast is incredible.
Sense. As much as I would have wanted to be on 40, I mean, there's no way that I want to play on Winners at War with all the winners. That would just be too difficult. We talked about him doing nothing. I guess the obvious pick for me would be to replace Caleb on Gondol, and maybe he doesn't get medically evacuated. That's one thought.
What if you
Another
get medevaced
thought.
in his spot, though?
Pardon?
What if you get medevaced in his casting spot?
That's always a risk that you take when you play this game.
It's okay. You'll get a free spot on Game Changers for no reason.
Exactly. If I was to go outside of that, outside of a tribe where my favorite player is playing, I'm gonna give an interesting one. Maybe one that your mom would like, thinking that maybe they could have rearranged the tribes because I think this person had to be there. What if Ethan was on another tribe and I was on Saboga?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I assume if you're taking the person's place, they're just not on the season. I don't think they go to the other tribe.
That's fair. I'm just coming from the perspective of like, could we possibly have a situation where if I'm going to take someone's place, that I'm playing with Rudy, one of my favorite players of all time, Rupert, who was one of my favorite players when I was younger, moving Ethan over to a tribe where there's, say, a bit of an unbalance, like putting Ethan, say, on Mogo Mogo and taking the place of Alex.
Yeah.
It would be an interesting topic. I guess we can technically do whatever we want because it's our show.
Yeah. Joining tribes that aren't with my favorite player of all time, and I'll include both of those, so no Amanda tribes or Kelly tribes. New era. Take either Drew or Austin's place on Reba. And again, leave Sifu because he kind of was running through the woods crazily and he became a target early. So as long as he's there, I'm not the name that people want out. You got to have that person around. Shout out Jeremy Collins, meat shield strategy. But I just had one and I forgot it. I feel like taking Rob's place on Oma Tepe is low risk, high reward because you probably wouldn't be able to control it the way Rob did because he has that aura about him and he was already a legend of the game by then. But Ometepe seems like a very moldable group. Like I could probably get some sort of position of power if we can get merge numbers. Not to his extent, but
All right. Ready to get into Alarm Blindside first, Booters? Is there anything you want to add first?
no, I'm ready.
Okay. With my unpopular opinion, I've mentioned all 3 of these players during the episode. I'm going to give you 3 pre-merge players that I think would have been good players if they lasted a bit longer. So your options are Anna from Kalong, Brian from Guatemala, and Stephanie Johnson from Ghost Island.
I think I'll align with Anna. And again, this is based purely off of what we've seen on TV. People don't read into that. blindside Brian because that'd be a good resume move, and I don't think he'd be bitter against me. And first booting Stephanie because that's the only spot left for her to slot into.
Yeah, I agree with you on those three.
Nice. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different route here, and I don't believe I've done this before. And it has to do with our best to not win conversation. I'm going to give you 3 different versions of the same player. So you have China Amanda, Micro Amanda, and Heroes versus Villains Amanda. Because there's a slightly different game there each time.
There is. I'm going to ally with Amanda from China. The one where she worked closely with Todd, was very loyal, pulled off big moves, got all the way to the end, blew up her game at the end and didn't win. I'm going to blindside Heroes versus Villains Amanda, the one she did get blindsided in and ended up on the jury. And I'm gonna first boot Micronesia Amanda, the one I think that was Amanda's best game and the one she had the best chance to win.
I don't know what I would say her best game is between those first two, because she was closer to winning Micro and had more votes. But at the same time, like, Todd gets a lot of credit for stuff where he gets the only credit from fans, but he came on our show and told us that basically him and Amanda were making almost all the decisions together. And that the James thing started with her. So
that's okay for me to align with, because in that case, I'm making all the decisions with her.
Yeah. I just meant to say I'm not sure if I would say that or Micro is her best game. I go back and forth. And by the way, here's an unpopular opinion, sort of, or maybe just a hot take. If JT doesn't do the stupid letter thing, and the heroes, even with the letter, if the heroes get numbers at the merge, I think Amanda has a great shot at winning that game. Because a lot of the heroes weren't really playing. Her and JT were the only heroes actually playing hard.
It's a great shot to win the game. I definitely think Amanda would get to the end and probably comes in as the favorite to win in that case. The only thing I'm going to say is that Heroes versus Villains, kind of like All Stars, like Winners at War, had a lot of pre-existing relationships. So I think that could have been a season if it's, say, a Amanda, JT, Rupert final 3, where maybe Rupert pulls it off because everyone on the jury wants him to win.
And maybe this was because it was Villains with a jury of heroes, but that jury was kind of a rough jury too. And so let's be honest, there's a great chance my homegirl gets to the end and self-destructs. But
it's possible.
I will align with, this is hard. I just want to align with all 3 of them and we'd be the final 4. But I'm gonna first boot Heroes versus Villains. That's the one that she played really well with the hand she was dealt. Lost numbers at the merge, but that's her worst season. I'm gonna blindside Micro just because that was the season where the girl power and the girls alliance was going. And even like if like say me and Amanda are the duo, not her and Parvati, there's still a Sari and a Natalie and an Alexis. I don't feel good about that. Which leaves aligning with China.
Yeah.
That was clever by me though, right? Doing 3 different versions of the same player.
Yeah.
I just invented a whole new way for us to play our game.
Maybe it's one I'll pull on you sometime when you're least expecting it.
Oh, I'm counting on it. There's no way this is the last time either of us do that. With that being said,
sure.
Make sure to check out all the other Reality Realm shows. Pit Stop Pals is coming at you every Monday. Me and Kevin, we're watching Amazing Race 25. We're down to when you're listening to this, we're down to the final 4 now after our last episode that just dropped, so check that out. Do you want to tell them about our newest Reality Realm show that just had its first episode drop last week?
Yeah, New Generation Challengers, it comes out on Sundays, so it'll be like basically we'll be putting out shows one after the other. Tribal Council Chat on Saturday, New Generation Challengers on Sunday, Pit Stop Pals on Monday. We TT and I just talked about the cast release. And then we'll be getting epic. Well, I guess by the time you hear this, episode 0 will have already aired. So look out tomorrow for a reaction to the move-in episode where we're gonna see the challengers get to Vietnam and move into the house. Who knows what kind of chaos Amanda Garcia is going to be causing already? I don't want to think about that tonight. And we're ready to get going onto the season, and should be really good. To start with an iconic cast like this for a brand new podcast, Battle of the Eras, is going to be amazing. And those in the Survivor community, you'll probably get to meet TT as well. She should be coming on to Tribal Council Chat as a guest in the near future.
Yeah, that episode won't air for probably about a month or so, but we're pre-filming stuff ahead for you guys because somebody's going out of town with bad internet for the whateverth time. So I'll let you guys guess which host that is.
Internet when you're in the middle of the ocean isn't very fun.
Yeah, but Reality Realm's hitting you guys hard on weekends, just loading up for you guys. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, just back to back. Pit Stop Pals comes out on our old day, by the way. For those of you that don't know, Saturday was not always Tribal Council Chat Day. It used to be Monday. So, fun trivia.
Yeah.
I love this tree mail episode. We'll have to do this again sometime. Yeah, Thank you for the few of you that sent in questions. Thank you for the one of you that sent in like 8 or 9 questions, because I told you that if we would be able to do this, depend on if we got enough or not. So, except for when you put an S on the end of the word survivor, but I'm sure I'll get a text from him for me for mentioning that. But grab your torches and head back to camp. Bye, everyone.
Good night, guys.